Commander Korthas drummed his chidness fingers against the command console, all four eyes fixed on the holographic display, dominating the bridge of the Vexdar flagship * Inevitable Conquest *. The pulsing red dot representing a lone human transport ship crawled across the star map, following a predictable course through the disputed Cygnus corridor. Another one, he rumbled, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Alone, as always. Tactical Officer Zivre approached, her silver skin catching the light of the displays. The Artemis, Commander. Standard human transport vessel. Minimal armaments, crew of 22 according to their registry. Their defenses. Negligible, Zivra replied, bringing up the vessel's specifications with a wave of her six-fingered hand. Standard point defense systems, light shields, nothing that would trouble even our smallest interceptor. Korthas leaned back in his command chair, a nagging feeling of curiosity overriding his usual predatory instincts. Show me the human chipping patterns again. The holographic display shifted, now showing hundreds of vessel trajectories throughout the sector. The tactical officer highlighted the human ships in blue. This makes no tactical sense, Korthas muttered. Every other species in known space travels in convoys. Even the Zentari, with their superior cloaking technology, maintain defensive formations. Yet humans, with their inferior technology, scatter their ships like seeds in the wind. Science Officer Delnoth joined them, his elongated head tilting in thought. Perhaps their cargo isn't valuable enough to warrant protection. No, Zivra countered, pulling up trade manifests. The Artimni carries refined neutronium and medical synthetics. High value. Then perhaps they're simply fools, suggested Delnoth. Commander Korthas rose from his chair, moving closer to the display. For 2 cycles now, his raiding fleet had built a fearsome reputation throughout the Orion Arm, ambushing isolated vessels and claiming their cargo. The Vexdar raiders were methodical, studying patterns, exploiting weaknesses, and this human behavioral pattern was the most glaring weakness he'd ever encountered. No species survives interstellar expansion through foolishness, he said quietly. There must be a reason. The bridge fell silent as the crew awaited their commander's decision. The Artemis would be an easy target, a quick victory. Yet something about the situation felt wrong. Commander, prompted Zivre. Your orders. Korthas' inner eyelids flicked across his vision in what his species considered a smirk. Perhaps it's time we solved this particular mystery. Signal the fleet. We intercept the human vessel. Standard containment pattern. As officers hurried to their stations, Delnoth approached his commander privately. Is this wise? Human vessels are hardly worth the fuel expenditure. This isn't about cargo, Korthas replied, watching as his ships began moving into position on the tactical display. This is about knowledge. Either we discover why humans always travel alone, or we teach them why they shouldn't. Both outcomes benefit us. Across the void of space, the unsuspecting Artemis continued its journey, its external sensors not yet detecting the raider fleet moving to intercept. In the ship's control room, Captain Elena Martinez reviewed routine system diagnostics, completely unaware that her vessel had been targeted. Deep within the Artemis, behind bulkheads marked with biohazard warnings and security restrictions, something stirred slightly in its dormant state, as if sensing a distant change. The ship's power grid experienced a momentary fluctuation, so brief that the engineers dismissed it as routine variance. The trap was set. The mystery would soon be solved. And neither the hunters nor the hunted yet understood how this encounter would change galactic understanding forever. The Artemis shuddered as the Vexdar gravity nets engaged, immobilizing the human transport in the emptiness of space. On the bridge, warning lights flashed and alerts sounded while the crew scrambled to their emergency stations. Captain Elena Martinez remained unnervingly calm, her weathered face betraying no fear as she studied the tactical display, showing 5 raider vessels surrounding her ship in perfect containment formation. Communications established, announced her first officer, Lieutenant Wei. They're demanding our surrender. Martinez nodded, straightening her uniform jacket. Put them through. Commander Korthaz's alien visage filled the main view screen, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he assessed the human captain. Captain Martinez of the Earth vessel Artemis *, your ship has been seized by the Vex-Dar fleet. Surrender your cargo and prepare for boarding. Martinez met his gaze steadily. Commander, we're a civilian transport carrying medical supplies for the Proxima colonies. Attacking us violates 3 different interstellar conventions. Korthaz's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Your species' naive reliance on treaties is why we prosper. You have 10 minutes to prepare for boarding. Any resistance will result in unnecessary casualties. Understood, Martinez replied with surprising composure. We request those 10 minutes to organize our crew and prepare essential systems for external control. The alien commander tilted his head, slightly puzzled by her calm demeanor. Granted. 10 minutes, human. No more. When the transmission ended, Martinez's demeanor changed instantly. Initiate Pandora contingency. Priority Alpha. The bridge crew exchanged grim looks before springing into action. Lieutenant Wei opened a ship-wide channel. Attention all personnel. Pandora protocol initiated. This is not a drill. Proceed to designated safe zones immediately. Below decks, organized chaos erupted. Crew members removed wall panels throughout the ship, exposing strange circuitry with organic-looking components that pulsed with faint blue bioluminescence. Others rushed to a hidden compartment behind the medical bay, carrying essential equipment and emergency supplies. How many boarders should we expect? Chief Engineer Russo asked as he worked frantically to reroute power conduits. Standard Vex-Dar boarding party is 15 raiders, Wei responded, helping the junior officer seal an internal bulkhead. We need to ensure minimal casualties on our side. In her private quarters, Martinez retrieved a small device from her safe, pressing her thumb against the biometric lock. The device hummed to life, displaying a countdown sequence. She took a deep breath before activating it, knowing what would follow. Pandora key authenticated, announced the ship's AI in a feminine voice. Guardian awakening sequence initiated. Estimated time to consciousness, 12 minutes. Expedite if possible, Martinez ordered. We have less than 10. Acknowledged. Increasing neural stimulation. Caution advised. Aboard the inevitable conquest, Korthaz watched with growing suspicion as his sensors detected unusual energy fluctuations within the human vessel. Their power grid is behaving erratically, reported Science Officer Delnov. Power is being diverted to sections that don't appear on any design schematic we have. Trap? Korthaz questioned. Unlikely. Their technology isn't sophisticated enough to threaten us. When the boarding party breached the Artemis airlock precisely 10 minutes later, they encountered minimal resistance, just 4 crew members who surrendered immediately. The ship seemed eerily understaffed. Proceed with caution, Korthaz ordered through the comm channel. Something doesn't feel right. Raider Kezvak led his team through the main corridor, scanning for life signs. Most of the crew appears to be gathered in a sealed compartment near their medical bay, he reported. Should we breach? Not yet. Secure the bridge and engineering first. As Kezvak's team moved deeper into the vessel, he paused at an exposed section of wall where panels had been removed. Commander, you should see this. These modifications don't match any human technology we've studied. He reached toward a pulsing conduit that seemed to throb like a living vein. The moment his gloved finger touched the surface, the ship's lighting shifted to a deep crimson. Throughout the vessel, a calm feminine voice announced, Pandora protocol completed. Awakening process commencing. The last thing Korthaz heard from his boarding team was Kezvak's sudden scream, abruptly silenced as all communications terminated. Breach the door. Now. Raider Squad Leader Mestur shouted, firing his plasma cutter at the sealed bulkhead, separating his team from Kezvak's position. The metal glowed red but didn't yield. It's not working, a subordinate reported, panic edging into his voice. The material is regenerating. Mr. stared in disbelief as the superheated area of the bulkhead cooled rapidly, seeming to flow like liquid before resolidifying. A ripple ran through the corridor's walls around them, metal panels shifting subtly like muscle beneath skin. "Fall back," he ordered, but when they turned, the passage behind them had sealed itself. They were trapped. On the command ship, Korthas watched with mounting horror through the helmet cameras of his boarding teams. "What's happening in there?" "Unknown, Commander," Delmuth replied, frantically analyzing sensor data. "The ship's internal structure is reconfiguring itself. That's theoretically impossible." The external appearance of the Artemis began to change as well. What had seemed like decorative hull features unfolded to reveal weapons ports. Armor plates emerged from hidden compartments, transforming the civilian transport into something far more threatening. "Energy signature tripling," reported a sensor officer, voice cracking with stress. "Whatever that vessel truly is, Commander, it's waking up." Deep within the Artemis, Captain Martinez and her essential crew monitored the situation from their sealed safe room. Status displays showed the transformation progressing throughout the ship, biological and mechanical systems working in harmony. "Guardian consciousness at 65% and rising," reported Lieutenant Wei, studying neural pattern readouts. "Integration with ship systems at 70%. "And the raiders?" Martins asked. "Team 1 has been processed," Chief Engineer Rousseau answered grimly. "Team 2 is contained in Section C. Team 3 is attempting to retreat to their shuttle." The captain nodded. "Can we still communicate with it?" "Limited capacity," Wei confirmed. "Basic impressions only until full consciousness is achieved." Martinez approached a pulsing interface panel that hadn't existed an hour earlier. She placed her palm against its surface, wincing slightly as microscopic filaments temporarily merged with her nervous system. "Guardian," she said softly, "these invaders threatened us, but we need information before total neutralization. Understand?" The response came not as words, but as impressions in her mind. Asterisk protect. Hunt. Consume. Learn. Asterisk. She removed her hand, looking troubled. "It's hungry. Very hungry." In Corridor C, Mester watched in horror as the floor beneath one of his raiders liquefied, the metal flowing upward like quicksilver to envelop the screaming alien. Instead of simply killing him, the material seemed to be studying him, breaking him down systematically. "Commander," Mester shouted into his comm, "we need immediate extraction. Cut through the hull if you have to." His words died as a silvery tendril emerged from a ventilation shaft, undulating with predatory intelligence. The tendril split into multiple branches, each targeting a different raider. On the command ship, Korthas lost another video feed, then another. "Get them out of there," he ordered. "Prepare cutting beams." "It's too late," Delmuth whispered, staring at the sensor readings. The ship's outer hull. It's no longer composed of conventional matter. Our beams would be ineffective. The last transmission from squad leader Mester came through as a desperate, clarity-filled realization. It's not a ship. It's a cage. And whatever was inside is now free. The transformed Artemis began to move, its engines glowing with power far beyond its listed specifications. As it turned toward the raider fleet, weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing systems no human vessel should possess. In the safe room, Martinez felt the Guardian's consciousness expanding, touching her mind with alien curiosity and predatory hunger. The covenant that bound human and Guardian together was being tested as it hadn't been in decades. "Remember our agreement," she whispered, though whether the entity could truly understand the concept of restraint remained an open question. "Protect, but don't destroy needlessly." The impression that returned was simpler and more terrifying. "Hunt. Feed. Grow." The security feed showed Raider Tech Specialist Vorlak running down a corridor, terror evident even through his environmental suit. His breathing came in panicked gasps as he desperately sought escape. "Emergency shuttle access is 20 meters ahead." The comm specialist aboard Korthaz's command ship guided him. "You're almost there." Behind Vorlak, the metal walls rippled like water. A silvery black substance flowed from vents and seams, moving with terrible purpose. It wasn't mindless. It was hunting, adapting, learning with each passing second. "Something's wrong with the shuttle bay door," Vorlak reported, pulling frantically at the handle that refused to budge. "It's fused shut." The flowing material caught up to him. As it touched his suit, tendrils spread across the surface, probing for weaknesses. The feed showed his brief struggle before the substance enveloped him completely, not just killing but absorbing suit technology, weapons, and the neural patterns of the raider himself. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, Commander Korthaz watched in horror as the feed switched to another location. The same substance had grown, evolved, now incorporating pieces of assimilated raider technology into its constantly changing form. "Impossible," whispered Science Officer Delnuth, mandibles trembling. "The material appears to be a semi-organic metallic compound with molecular-level intelligence. It's analyzing and integrating our technology." "The legends were true," murmured an elder navigator, drawing surprised looks. "The Void Hunters." Before Korthaz could question him, the communications array chimed. Captain Martinez's face appeared on screen, looking strained but composed. "Commander Korthaz, perhaps now you understand why human ships travel alone. What abomination have you unleashed?" he demanded. "We call them Guardians," she explained, wincing slightly as the ship around her continued its transformation. "Each human vessel carries one. They remain dormant during peaceful travel, wrapped around and integrated with the ship's systems." The sensor display showed the Artemis continuing its metamorphosis, weapon systems unlike anything in known space emerging from its reconfigured hull. 3 centuries ago, Martins continued, early human explorers encountered these entities in deep space. While other species attempted to destroy them, we communicated, formed a partnership. Tactical Officer Zivray interrupted urgently. "Commander, the vessel is targeting our engines." "You should have left us alone," Martins stated flatly. "The Guardian protects its human partners. That's the covenant we made. We provided energy and occasional freedom to hunt. It keeps us safe from threats." The transmission cut as the transformed Artemis fired, its weapons bypassing the raider's shields entirely. The beam sliced through the smallest raider ship with surgical precision. "Evasive maneuvers," Korthaz ordered. "All ships, scatter formation." As the raider fleet desperately tried to regroup, the Artemis Guardian * hybrid moved with impossible agility. Its once rigid structure now flowed like liquid metal, adapting its form for maximum efficiency. With each raider it consumed, it grew more formidable, assimilating their neural patterns and technology. In the safe room, Martinez monitored the Guardians' hunt through specialized interfaces. "It's consuming their technology too quickly," she noted with concern. "Integration protocols are struggling to maintain control parameters." "Should we attempt to limit its access?" asked Wei. "We couldn't if we tried," Martins replied grimly. "Remember your training. Once awakened, a Guardian must fulfill its hunting drive. Our job now is to guide, not control." On the command ship, Korthaz finally understood the terrible truth. Human vessels traveled alone not from tactical stupidity, but necessity. They weren't ships at all, but carefully managed predators with humans as their handlers. The question that had sparked his curiosity now had a horrifying answer, one that would reshape galactic understanding of humanity, if he survived to share it. "Disengage. All ships. Maximum thrust," Korthaz ordered as the Artemis Guardian hybrid tore through his fleet's forward section. Standard energy weapons barely scratched its rapidly evolving hull. The raider vessels scattered like startled prey, abandoning formation tactics in favor of pure survival. 3 smaller ships accelerated toward a nearby asteroid field, seeking cover among the tumbling rocks. "Status report," Korthaz demanded, gripping his command chair as the inevitable conquest shuddered from a glancing hit. Forward shields at 28%, reported Zivra, her voice steady despite the chaos. 2 ships destroyed, 3 damage. The Relentless Hunter reports complete weapons failure after attempting concentrated fire. Delnoth analyzed incoming data with growing alarm. Commander, observed the entity's response to our attacks. When energy weapons proved ineffective, we switched to kinetic projectiles. The tactical display showed the transformed Artemis taking a direct hit from a railgun round, then rapidly developing armored plating specifically designed to counter such weapons. It's learning, Korthas whispered, adapting to our tactics in real time. Across the command deck, the elder navigator who had mentioned Void Hunters earlier approached cautiously. Commander, I've seen this before. Long ago, when I was a junior pilot. Speak quickly, Korthas ordered, eyes fixed on the battle displays. We must contact the Xylonians. They know of these creatures. With few options remaining, Korthas opened emergency channels to nearby systems, offering significant payment for information. Minutes stretched into an agonizing hour as the Raider fleet fought a losing battle, each engagement teaching the Guardian more about their weapons and tactics. Finally, a response came through. An ancient Xylonian trader, his wrinkled face grave on the view screen. You fool, the ancient alien wheezed upon hearing Korthas' description. You've awakened a Guardian. What are they? Entities from the void between dimensions. Ancient, intelligent in ways we cannot comprehend. The Xylonians' multiple eyes blinked nervously. Centuries ago, early human explorers encountered them in deep space. Other species tried to destroy the mysterious predators, but humans did something unthinkable. They communicated with them. How do we stop it? Korthas demanded. You don't, came the simple reply. You can only hope to survive its hunting phase. Once it has fed sufficiently, it may return to dormancy, if its human handlers can persuade it. The transmission ended as proximity alarms blared. The Guardian had located the command ship. Meanwhile, the transformed Artemis pursued the fleeing raiders with single-minded determination. Its once humanoid shape had evolved into a terrifying amalgamation of original form and incorporated raider technology. Where it had absorbed raiders and their equipment, new capabilities emerged, improved sensors, enhanced weapon systems, and an increasingly sophisticated understanding of its prey's tactics. Within the safe room, Captain Martinez struggled to maintain influence over her ship's symbiotic partner. The neural interface showed the Guardian's consciousness expanding exponentially as it consumed more technology and neural patterns. Guardian is ignoring restraint protocols, her science officer reported tensely. It's broadcasting some kind of signal. Indeed, across light years of space, other human vessels received the hunting call, their own Guardians stirring restlessly in response, causing moments of system fluctuation that their human crews worked quickly to soothe. Martinez pressed her palm against the pulsing interface, trying to reach the entity's consciousness. The Guardian's response came as a chaotic swirl of impressions. Hunt, feed, grow, more. She withdrew her hand, face pale. It's not just hunting to neutralize a threat anymore, she told her crew. It's enjoying itself, and it's calling to others of its kind. The implications chilled everyone in the room. If they couldn't regain influence over their Guardian, this incident could cascade into something far worse. A full awakening of every Guardian throughout human space. The vast asteroid field should have provided cover. Instead, it became another hunting ground. Pilot Vrextal guided his interceptor between two massive rocks, thrusters straining as he executed maneuvers his ship wasn't designed to perform. Behind him, the transformed Artemis moved with impossible precision, using gravitational manipulation to shift massive asteroids aside or propel them as weapons. It's still on me, he reported, voice tight with fear. Standard evasion tactics ineffective. Aboard the command vessel, now hiding in the shadow of a larger asteroid, Korthas watched helplessly as his fleet was methodically reduced. After devouring their scientific vessel, The Guardian had suddenly developed energy fields that could analyze and disrupt their cloaking technology. It's not just consuming, Del Noth observed with horrified fascination. It's evolving. Each technology it absorbs becomes part of its arsenal, but improved, refined. The sensor display showed Vrextal's interceptor executing a desperate dive between narrowly spaced asteroids. For a moment, it seemed the Guardian couldn't follow. Then the entity simply flowed through the narrow gap, its structure temporarily becoming almost liquid. "Commander," Vrextal's panicked voice came through. "It's breaching my..." Static filled the channel. On the display, his ship's energy signature winked out. "Seventh vessel lost," Zivra reported grimly. "We're down to the command ship and 2 escorts." Through the ship's communication systems, Martinez opened a channel to Cortez. Her face appeared exhausted, strained. "Commander, I can't control it much longer," she admitted. "Its hunt drive has exceeded all previous parameters." "What do you want, human?" he snarled, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The Guardian wants satisfaction. Specifically, the hunters who invaded its territory." Her eyes reflected both compassion and steel. "Surrender your boarding team survivors, and I might convince it to spare the rest." "There are no survivors," Cortez replied coldly. Martinez's expression faltered. "Then it will continue until it creates a satisfactory conclusion." That's how they think. Stories, not objectives. Every hunt has a proper ending. As the transmission ended, Cortez stared at the tactical display. The question that had started this catastrophe, why human ships traveled alone, now had a terrifying answer. They traveled alone because they had to, because each ship contained a territorial apex predator that would attack even its own kind if they came too close. Within the Artemis, Martinez and her crew struggled with their increasingly independent symbiote. The Guardian's consciousness had expanded beyond the ship's original boundaries, creating new systems and structures from the matter it had consumed. "It's developing a specialized hunting form," we observed, studying the external camera feeds showing their vessel's new configuration. What had been a recognizable ship now resembled a predatory creature, sleek and angular, with sensory arrays that could detect the faintest energy signatures. Martinez activated the emergency communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Elena Martins of the UNSC Artemis to all vessels in the Cygnus corridor. Be advised, we have an awakened Guardian situation. Implement Protocol Orpheus immediately. Repeat, Protocol Orpheus." Throughout human space, captains receiving this message would understand its significance. Another Guardian had fully awakened and broken containment protocols. They would clear the area, leaving the entity to complete its hunt without additional stimulation. "Will anyone come to help us?" asked the junior officer. "No," Martins answered honestly. "That's the point of Orpheus. No one interferes. No one approaches. We handle our own problems." She turned back to the neural interface. Their options were narrowing rapidly. The Guardian had tasted freedom and power. Convincing it to return to dormancy would be nearly impossible without satisfying its primal drives. Through the interface, she sensed its anticipation as it closed in on the command ship. It wasn't just hunting anymore, it was playing with its food. While his remaining ships engaged in desperate evasive maneuvers, Cortez dove into classified intelligence archives. The data crystal he inserted into his private terminal contained information deemed too sensitive for general knowledge. Surveillance and intelligence gathered on humanity since their entry into the galactic community. The records painted a different picture than commonly accepted history. Early human vessels were indeed primitive, making them easy targets for pirates and hostile powers. Humanity suffered devastating losses in their first decades of interstellar travel, nearly abandoning expansion altogether. Then, mysteriously, they disappeared from known space for nearly a decade. When they returned, their ships appeared largely unchanged externally. Yet somehow, pirates and hostile forces who attacked them began to vanish without trace. The classified files contained testimony from a sole survivor of an early attack, rescued from a drifting escape pod, babbling about the ship eating them, and metal that moved like water. Cortez leaned back from the terminal, mandibles clicking softly as pieces fell into place. Humanity, facing extinction, had made a devil's bargain. Through the emergency channel, he opened communication with the Artemis. Captain Martinez appeared on screen, looking haggard but determined. "Your Guardian has destroyed another of my ships," Cortez stated flatly. "We cannot outrun it forever." "No," she agreed. "You can't." "I want to understand," he said, surprising himself with the admission. "How did your species come to this arrangement? Living inside predators, always one mistake from being consumed yourselves." Martine seemed to weigh her response carefully. "We couldn't build better ships fast enough," she finally said. "But we found partners who needed what we could provide. Stable energy, purpose, and occasional hunting opportunities. A symbiotic relationship, not parasitism." "And your government sanctions this?" Cortez asked incredulously. "It was our only viable option for survival," Martins replied. "Every Guardian ship pairing is carefully monitored. Crews undergo extensive psychological evaluation and training. The symbiosis works because both parties benefit." On his sensor display, Cortez watched the transformed Artemis methodically hunting his last escort vessel. Deep scans showed something impossible: spaces that registered as both occupied and empty simultaneously, energy patterns that violated known physics, and structural configurations that changed moment by moment based on need. "We don't fully understand them," Martins admitted, following his gaze to the external camera feed. "They're ancient, possibly from another dimension originally. They perceive reality differently than we do, existing partially in normal space, and partially elsewhere." "And if one breaks free of your control?" Cortez asked. Martinez's expression darkened. "That's happened twice in our history. The results were catastrophic. That's why we implemented the Orpheus Protocol and why our ships travel alone. Each Guardian is territorial. They would attack even others of their kind if ship formations brought them too close together." The feed suddenly cut to static as the Guardian disabled the communications array on the command ship. Cortez turned to his crew, seeing fear but also resignation in their eyes. "We awakened something we don't understand," he told them quietly. "Something humanity has learned to coexist with through necessity and caution." Delnoth approached his commander's chair. "If we survive this, the information changes everything. Our understanding of humanity, their place in the galactic hierarchy, all based on incomplete data." Cortez nodded grimly. "We thought them weak, technologically stunted. Instead, they've been traveling inside predators, every journey a balancing act between partnership and containment." He watched as the Guardian finished consuming the escort vessel, turning its attention fully to the command ship. Perhaps that's the most terrifying aspect of all. Not that humans found these entities, but that they willingly chose to use them rather than attempting to destroy them. A proximity alarm sounded. The hunt was nearly over. With his command ship the only survivor of what had been a proud raider fleet, Cortez made the hardest decision of his life. The Guardian entity would not stop until it had completed its hunt. The longer they resisted, the more it would evolve, potentially becoming a threat beyond this single encounter. "Open a channel to the Artemis," he ordered quietly. When Captain Martinez's face appeared on screen, he spoke without preamble. "I surrender myself. Spare my remaining crew." A flicker of surprise crossed the human's exhausted features. "You understand this isn't entirely my decision anymore." "I do," Cortez replied. "But I believe your Guardian respects worthy prey. A commander who sacrifices himself for his crew might qualify." After a brief consultation with her officers, Martinez nodded. "Prepare for transport. Come alone and unarmed." 30 minutes later, Cortez stood in the converted cargo bay of the Artemis, facing Captain Martinez. The room had been transformed, the walls rippling with barely contained energy. A portion of the Guardian had manifested physically, forming a roughly humanoid shape of constantly shifting metallic liquid that studied him with senses he couldn't comprehend. It's curious about you, Martinez explained. Your decision to sacrifice yourself registered as interesting. The Guardian's surface rippled, forming patterns that somehow conveyed emotions and thoughts directly into Corthez's mind. Ancient hunger, predatory satisfaction, but also something unexpected. Respect. Once awakened, Guardians must complete their hunt, Martine said, gesturing toward the entity. But they can be satisfied with a single worthy prey. She approached him, handing over a small device. We've never attempted this before, but our scientists have theorized it might be possible. This is a Guardian fragment, a small portion of the entity's consciousness isolated in a containment field. It can be integrated with a non-human nervous system. Corthez stared at the device, understanding dawning. You're offering me bonding instead of death. The process might kill you, she warned. But success would create the first non-human symbiotic pairing. You would understand them as we do. Why offer this? Cortez asked, mandibles trembling. Martinez's eyes reflected both compassion and calculation. Because the galaxy needs to understand what we live with every day, the fragile balance we maintain, the constant vigilance required. The bonding process was excruciating, feeling like his consciousness was being simultaneously torn apart and expanded. When it finished, Corthez experienced the Guardian's alien perspective, its ancient origins in the space between dimensions, its perception of organic life as both fascinating and delicious, and its strange honor code that made it value the partnership with humans. 3 days later, the remaining raider vessel departed the Cygnus corridor. The Artemis had returned to its dormant state, its Guardian satisfied with the commander's offering. Corthez, forever changed by his partial bonding, addressed his bewildered crew. We carry a message to the galaxy, he told them, his 4 eyes now containing unusual metallic flecks. Human ships travel alone not from weakness but necessity. Inside each human vessel sleeps something ancient and terrible, barely contained by the covenant between species. As the raiders limped toward home, the reports spread quickly through subspace communications, transforming galactic understanding of humanity overnight. They weren't the technologically stunted species everyone had assumed, but something far more terrifying. Diplomats and partners to entities that most species couldn't even comprehend. Corthez felt the fragment's consciousness expanding his own, providing insights impossible through ordinary perception. The true horror wasn't that humans had made this bargain, but that they did so willingly, eyes open to the consequences of failure. Perhaps, he reflected as his own consciousness expanded beyond former limitations, that was the most human trait of all, the ability to dance with monsters and somehow make it look like grace.